Hello, what is up guys, it's Haze Page, and today I am bringing you yet another video, and this one is going to be over the Lost Halls 2.0, and my first look, first impressions, detailed analysis kind of thing from my first few runs of the dungeon. So, up on screen in the background you'll see a lot of clips and stuff from the new Lost Halls from some of my more recent runs, one of which went horribly wrong in Void, but that'll be later in the video. And I'll just be talking through all of my first impressions, gathering my thoughts, and telling you what I think about the dungeon so far, and things you should know from my personal experience. Alright, let's get right into the video. Real quick before I start this real part of the video, I wanted to tell you that people I'm running this dungeon with is Lost Boys. They are by far the best Discord I've run Lost Halls with, and whenever they grow, they have a good method for doing multiple runs at once. It's not like the pub Lost Halls where there's like 290 people groups. It's like they have 5 different rooms and they have multiple raid leaders that know what they're doing, and it's really well organized. And whenever they grow and they start having more runs, it'll be better chance for loot whenever there's smaller groups but still good enough to do voids and cultists. So yeah, make sure you check them out, links in the description. So the first thing I want to go over is hazard rooms. As you can see on screen right now, there's an ice room, and this one, obviously we all know what ice does, but I like the ice more for the pop than the increased difficulty. The old Lost Halls, as pretty much everyone knows, was very stale and bland, and it was just, you hated looking at it. So like, for me personally, I did over 200 Lost Halls, running, raiding, leading, blah, 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 and it just got boring because it was the same thing over and over, and with my loot luck, it was just not worth it at all. But now with this, it's like, I go in there and it's like, okay, there's some diversity in the rooms, there's some cool stuff, and, yeah, so, like, there's the water, there's the void gaps, not void gaps, but, you know, just the gaps where you can't walk or else you'd like fall off technically, but you can't walk there. And then there's the ice, of course, on screen, and yeah, just a bunch of new cool things to make the Lost Halls more interesting and more vibrant, as well as the rooms being bigger and more easy to navigate. Great changes from Deca. I saw these in testing and I'm happy they made it into the game. So we gotta make this quick before the room disappears and we move on, but as you can see on screen, there's the pillars that slow and darkness. The green slows and the black darknesses you, or blinds you, and that caught me off guard the first time I ever saw it, and I was like, whoa, 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 what slowed me? There's no enemies here, and I was just like, oh, it's a pillar. And I thought these were both really cool. We're past it now, but I thought they were both really cool to mess around with, and there's also one that makes you go super speedy, and that one's probably the most deadly because you just go flying and it comes out of nowhere. It's like a speed buff times 4, and you just go flying into enemies and you're like, oh shit. And then you slow down once you leave the radius, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't have the speed to come back either. Yeah, it's just a pretty I saw someone get wrecked by it. I didn't record it, but it was funny, dude. It was funny. He was a like 2.8, so it wasn't that big a deal, but man, pillars, they're gonna be a challenge to mess with if there's hard spawns in the pillar room. But yeah, I like their idea. I like their concept. Really, really interesting idea and good. 10 out of 10. Nice. So as you can see right now, we are currently doing the Cultist. And the Cultist is really, really cool and neat now. He's a lot more challenging, which I like. Because the Cultist used to kind of just be a boss. Now he's kind of hard. People are obviously going to get used to his phases, and he's going to get easier and easier as we go. But Cultist, really fun to do overall now. He's a lot more challenging, and his phases are a lot cleaner, in my opinion. I'll let some more of this play as I talk. I might chop it up a little bit, just so we can get through all the phases, but every guy, every worshipper, cultist now has their own separate shot pattern and do a lot of low damaging shots, I want to say, but when you add them all up, they can all insta-pop you, or not all, but do some heavy damage to you, and I wasn't I'm still not completely used to the phases, admittedly, and I take a lot of damage throughout a lot of the phases. Luckily, they're kind of forgiving with their slow reload times. It's not reload, but like they take a lot of time in between their shots usually. And the Cultist now is very, very well made. It's like they changed it to where it's different enough for it to be refreshing, but not so different that it's unfamiliar. Once you get used to the new phases, they're not that bad, but still way more challenging than before. And Tricksters, this is when I really noticed the usefulness of Tricksters. Besides Crusades, Tricksters are now extremely, extremely useful in pretty much every aspect of the dungeon now. And I'm really, really hoping to start using my Trickster again, because, yeah, it's going to be good for this dungeon. So, yeah. As you can see here on screen right now, I get 3 life and a mana, so they obviously buffed. They knew they made him harder, and so they buffed the drop rates, and 3 life and a mana is not too shabby from a single boss. And this was a relatively quick run too, so I was really happy with how this turned out, and I feel like Cultists are more worth it to run and get the vials now. And so yeah, here we go into some more of the regular old Lost Halls clips. So the next thing I want to talk about in the Lost Halls is the changes to the phases and the art designs of many of the enemies. And so up ahead, as you can see, I talked about it earlier, the water hazard room is right up here in this Lost Halls room, this golem room. And the main reason I wanted to talk about this was actually because of the golems. The big boy, now that they call it, the name for the middle tower, or it used to be middle tower of the golems, is now called Big Boy. And the design on all the golems, as you can see throughout these clips, is a lot more, like, they have more vibrancy, I guess is the right word, and they have more contrasting colors, which I really, 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 really like. So yeah, the changes to the phases of both the enemies, they don't have the same problem I had when you'd peek around a corner and they just appear and just insta-pop you. I really like that change. I also like the changes they made to the Crusades design. They look like a little bit more raggedy. They look a little bit more ferocious, I guess you could say. They look a lot more menacing, in my opinion, and they also look a lot more cool. And the Tricksters are very, very useful against them. We've always known this, but they're even better now. Crusades are still very, very strong and don't have a huge change, but are still noticeable difference in characteristics, as well as many of the others. But the 2 favorite changes that I saw were the golems and the bats, rats, and gats room. The gats now have a slime in the middle that you gotta kill that has just feels fresh, and it just feels nice. So yeah, that's main differences artistically and phase that I noticed were really big. There's a couple others, especially Spooky Boy. Spooky Boy is now even more spooky. Similar in the trapping and the all of that, but now he's got some interesting new aspects like teleporting whenever the closest player. Teleporting, yeah. Whew, don't want to mess with Spooky Boy now, but just get him trapped. 90 seconds, he's gone. So the next thing I want to talk about is, as you can see, we just walked into this neato little room here, and this is the guardian of sorts of the Marble Colossus. Instead of there being a wall, there is a guardian type room, which I am not very great at dodging, but it reminds me a lot of the Parasite Chambers boss, and essentially that's what it is. But it was kind of hard to navigate on my slow trash knight, and I should have just stuck in the middle for heals here, but I was just trying to dodge it. So yeah, you kill that thing, basically like a little guardian, and then he opens up the pathway to the Marble Colossus. So the Colossus room has not changed a lot. I don't think it's any different in size, maybe a little smaller. I don't think though. Think so though. There's also blood on the floor. I don't know if that was there before, but there's blood on the floor now, and you can kind of see a yellow glow to him that shows that he's charged and indicates that he's going to be shooting. a lot of his shots now deal paralyzing, and the pillars are very similar to how they were before. All stunnable and all same health. But yeah, the phases to this guy are very, very intriguing. I'll show you later whenever he starts switching. But what he does, he'll do his rotations like good old school Marvel Colossus, and circles, stuff like that. But later on, he'll start to morph and become like the Void himself. Also, he starts to shoot Confuses. He didn't do that before. Now he shoots Confused stars that have a very odd, wacky pattern that is annoying. But that it just adds another layer of difficulty, you know? You gotta be better dodger, you know? The other phases that they added anew were the flying potatoes that fly around the room that you have to shoot before he goes invulnerable again. And that's one of the cool things. They added more depth to him, not just a chase and shoot kind of thing. All the phasers are still the same, but they have increased in difficulty, I would say, by around 20-30%. The rocks are now more intuitive. You can tell when they're about to pop better. Kind of like blow blobs, and yeah, so pretty neat phases here. I didn't do a lot to contribute in these early phases, but let's go ahead and cut to the new Void section, which is really, really cool. He starts slowly taking some of his shots, which all initially start out as yellow. You can feel him start to slip into the Void, like storyline mode, and he starts shooting purple shots that look like they would come from the Void entity, and towards the end of that phase, he only shoots those dark purple Void shots, which it's really cool to see how the boss changes as he starts to die and slip away. I think it's just a really, really neato thing. So, yeah. So in this run here, we took care of him pretty quick. Average time. He HP scales now, which is nice. So it's not like you go in there with 3 people, you're going to be absolutely screwed. But if you only have 3 people, you're probably not going to be able to heal enough or do enough damage. There's a problem with one of those two. But yeah, it makes for better, decent-sized groups to be able to do it. It still requires a group, which I like that they kept in the game, of course. And yeah, as you can see here, the boss is turning straight Void. He's all purple, shooting all purple shots, which means he's also about to die. So kind of nice to know if you're not using HP bars, which most people do at this point. But whenever he's about to die, he shoots all those purple shots, meaning that he's about to slip away into the Void. And of course, when he's there, he dies. We go into the Void and get an attack death from one of the hardest bosses in the game. Attack death. Nice. Let's go to Void. Alright, we're into the Void now. Let's see how it looks. Oh my gosh. It looks the exact same. Not really. It looks very similar. Similar shape, but there's more texture to the good old ground. There's some pink, purple stuff in the floor. The Void goes out of the freaking muck out of the side. You just saw that like 10 seconds ago. And then, yeah, so as we can see here, the Void does his same old circular rotation phase at the very beginning. And, well, I didn't really expect anything else from the Void in these early phases. But as we get further along into the Void fight, he gets a lot, and I mean a lot, harder. Like, it is overpowering at some points. The Knight that I'm using here was initially meant to be for stunning the big boys whenever they came around. And you'll see later how that goes. But the Knight does have some very solid uses in this dungeon and is able to get some solid damage off whenever he comes around and does his rotations. He pretty much acts the exact same for his first half of the phases, minus some minor changes to his shot pattern. But he does a lot of the exact same stuff. The problem here is, I'll cut it up right now. You'll see that the enemies have the ability to make you not use your ability, but not quiet you. So I forget what it's called. Called. Sickened, right? No. Yes. Sick? Is it sickened? I don't know. But basically, it makes it to where you can't stun. And if you get hit by this, you're not quieted, but you can't stun. It's a really, 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 really bad gig. It's very rough to deal with. And it's almost like a tease. Like, you should be able to stun. You have 300 MP, but you can't. And it's, whew, man, it makes the boss fight so much more difficult. And the Void really beats you up if you don't have a proper sized group. And if you can't keep up with the spawns, I'd say you need around 30 people for a Void run. I would say 30 people is around what you would want. 2 knights, priest, pallies, people that can do all that stuff is what you really need for a Void run. And as you can see in this Void run, I'll cut it up some more. We start to lose some numbers from nexuses and stuff like that, and by that point we eventually all converge into one corner, and this does not work out very well in the end for all of us, but the fight was still fun. I really enjoyed the last phase where he splits into 4, even though this is where I nexus. He splits into 4 void entities, and kind of like using double team and Pokemon, you know, good old Pokemon mans. But yeah, the mixture of big boys and 4 void entities was not very good. Survival phase is now actually a survival phase and not just sit and tell story phase. Yeah, it's an intense fight, and I like it. It reminds me of more of the bullet hell game that I remember knowing and loving. Because with pets, it's hard to die to something over time. But with this dungeon, this guy will beat you down. Like, the void entity will beat you down and beat you over time. And that's not something that a lot of bosses and dungeons can do now in this game. So overall, Lost Hells 2.0, I am going to give a 9 out of 10. I really, really do enjoy the new Lost Hells 2.0 version. This video is run pretty long, but not terribly long. But yeah, it's a pretty in-depth video, in my opinion, at least. And as I said earlier, make sure to go check out the Discord. Lost Boys, the people that I ran this with. We want them to grow a little bit more. That way they can run multiple groups at once. I will be raid leading in here occasionally, so if you want to drop by, say hi. I will be raid leading yet again. Retired from Lost Hall's public Discord, thank goodness. And then coming back over to a new Discord. New, fresh Lost Halls 2.0. Yeah, make sure to check them out. That's all I got for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.